night highway out of Bakersfield looked like a black ribbon pulled tight across the valley. Red taillights shimmered in heat ripples that shouldn't have existed after midnight, and the stars looked like they'd been polished just for this sky. The bus's engine hummed a deep, steady note, the kind that settled into your ribs and wouldn't leave. The tires whispered over the asphalt, shh, 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 mile after mile. From far behind, a semi's horn let out a low moan, as if clearing its throat in the dark. 7 passengers rode the late bus headed west, just 7, which felt like a number chosen by a hand that liked symmetry and endings. Tom, a construction foreman with hands too big for his phone, kept rubbing a fresh line of callus on his palm. He sat by the window trying to capture enough bars to text his wife that he'd be home by morning. Linda, a night shift nurse, carried the kind of calm that hospitals carve into you over years, but her eyes flicked up whenever the bus drifted close to the rumble strips. Mark, who smelled faintly of fryer oil and pine cleaner, kept a paper bag of tools under his seat, a habit from fixing things that broke in the night. Ava, a grad student with a camera strap across her chest, filmed the way the highway erased itself behind them in the rear window. David, a volunteer firefighter off a long shift, fought sleep with stubborn blinks. Henry, a retired history teacher, kept a paperback open, but reread the same paragraph, turning the page with the mechanical grace of a metronome. Lisa, a young mother, whose phone case was printed with tiny stars, scrolled through photos of a boy wearing a crooked paper crown. The cabin fans whirred overhead, a dry breath that never quite cooled the air. A fluorescent tube near the back buzzed with an insect's patience. Bzz, bzz, bzz. The brakes sighed now, and then a hushed exhale even when no one asked them to. No one looked too closely at the driver. You can be forgiven for missing a face when you expect a face to be there. There was a cap, a collar. The broad shape of a man filled the driver's seat and held the wheel exactly 12 and 2. But when the road curved past a stand of eucalyptus and the interior lights flicked at the cap brim cast a shadow that hid everything except a line of jaw that didn't quite match the angle of the headrest, Tom raised his phone to snap a picture of the weirdly empty highway, then frowned. His phone played that hollow no-service chime, a soft tone that still sounded like a door closing. "Signal's trash out here," Mark said. He popped his knuckles tiny wet clicks that cracked the quiet. "Don't," Linda murmured without looking up. "You'll summon something." Henry chuckled. "Old superstition, old nurse," she said. "Everything is a superstition until it's a pattern." Up front, the fare box gave a solitary clink as if a coin had just fallen into it. No one had moved. The clink came again. "Did you ever" began, but the third clink rolled into the sound of a handful of coins scattering through metal fast as rain. Clink, clink, clatter, tink, tink, tink. The driver did not react. David leaned into the aisle. "Hey man, you okay up there?" The bus didn't answer, not with words. Instead, the turn signal ticked on. Tick, 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 even though there was no exit on this stretch, no merge, nothing to announce but itself. Somewhere beneath the floor, something tapped back 3 times hollow as knuckles on a coffin lid. Tuk, tuk, tuk. Lisa slipped her phone into her hoodie pocket and hugged herself. "Is there an emergency button on these things? There's me," Mark said, tapping his tool bag. "Worst case I can." The PA system crackled to life, a burst of static like dry leaves tearing. A voice came through in a slow avalanche of hiss, stay, seated. Then it clicked off with a crisp pop. "Buddy," David said, standing now. "You can't just let him work," Henry said, though his voice wavered. "Drivers don't love backseat captains." The eucalyptus stand fell away to a dark stretch, that locals called the Devil's Mile. It earned that name by statistics alone: too many crosses on the shoulder, too many names carved into signs and tape and marker. And long before any of them were born, a bus had taken this very route, heavy with people and light with luck. The late bus drifted just an inch, just enough to make Tom lift his head. The right wheels rolled onto the rumble strip, and the cabin filled with a gravelly growl, "Rrrr," that shook the floor under their feet. The growl stopped dead when the wheels slid back onto smooth asphalt, a silence so sudden it felt like someone had muted the night. "Okay," Linda said, packing calm into the word. "Maybe he's tired. Maybe we flag him to pull over at the next turnout." "Next turnout's 8 miles, Henry said. "Longer at this pace," Eva said. Henry tilted his book toward the speedometer he could see through the aisle. "He's doing 60, 70, 80. The engine note climbed a thin ladder up the scale, a bright metallic whine that set everyone's teeth on edge. Sir Lisa called, "Please don't go too fast." In answer, the horn let out a long, unbroken wail that vibrated the windows. Whee! It didn't warn. It declared. It sounded like grief that had found an instrument. David took 2 steps toward the front. The driver turned his head. For the length of a breath, David saw a profile where a face should be a negative space, like a photograph taken when someone had stood up and walked away at the last second. Headlights from an oncoming car cut across that absence. And in the flash, David saw a reflection in the windshield. Where there should have been only road, a line of passengers, 30 or 40, standing in the aisle. Their hands on the seatbacks, their mouths open in eternal remarks that never found breath. A thin chorus rose not from the present 7, but from the memory of the 40 paper-dry whispers like programs rustling in a church. "Hush, hush, hush, we're still here." David stumbled back. Everyone's seatbelts. Now. They obeyed all but Tom, who hadn't unlatched his from the start. He drew the strap-tight knuckles whitening. "If this is a stunt," he said, "it's not funny." "Not a stunt," the PA whispered. "It says sandpapered the inside of the bus. Stay seated." "Who are you?" Eva asked, camera up, lens pointed at the driver, hands shaking. "Earl Navarro," Henry said softly, because the human brain, desperate to file horror somewhere, reaches for a name. "The driver who—" "Don't," Linda said. "Don't say it yet." They hit a patch of wind that came out of nowhere and everywhere at once. It howled along the bus's side like a living thing, a big dog racing their reflection. The windows flexed with a rubbery thrum, thrum, thrum. From the luggage racks above, a forgotten soda can rolled and rattled, tinny and nervous. The highway ran an arrow straight path toward a red bottleneck of brake lights in the distance. An accident up ahead, David thought, or construction. Something to slow them down. Something normal for once. The bus sped up. The engine screamed now, a high throat-tight keen that left no room for doubt. The horn layered beneath it, a second note lower, wider, a train barreling through the wrong story. "Stop," Lisa cried. "Please stop." Tom's seatbelt tightened on its own. He looked down at it, surprised, as if his clothing had decided to correct his posture. The lap belt hugged his hips. The shoulder strap pulled across his chest, pulled tighter, then tighter still, until the fabric cut a hard line across his collarbone. "Hey," Tom said, fingers clawing for the buckle. The buckle refused with a stubborn click-click that wasn't his doing. The ratchet in the reel whispered as it swallowed slack. "Zip, zip, zisp." "Mark," Linda said. "Help him." Mark lunged, tool bag swinging. David grabbed the nearest pole to steady himself against the speed. Tom's seat jerked forward hard, as if someone had kicked the back of it. His forehead smacked the window. He swore just a breath of a word, the kind a dad hates himself for saying because little ears once listened for him. "Hold still," Linda said, voice a level bridge over boiling water. "Breathe." The bus hit another rumble strip, and the entire cabin filled with a grinding roar, like a rock slide trapped in a throat. From the front, the wipers squealed across a dry windshield, though there was no rain. The PA hissed out laughter that didn't belong to anyone living. H. Tom's head turned on its own. No, his head didn't move. The bus moved him. The shoulder strap drew him sideways. The lap belt pinned his hips. The seat springs groaned, protesting, as if they were hearing their own last story. "Cut it," Mark said, already digging for a knife. "We'll cut the strap." The zipper on his tool bag rasped like a snake shaking a warning. Metal clinked and skittered as wrenches slid over one another, a pocket full of bones chasing their own noise. "Don't," Linda said, because cutting a seatbelt felt like deciding the universe had rules, and cutting them would matter, and she knew better. But she reached for Tom anyway, hands firm, present, human. Somewhere behind them, a child's laugh trilled high, sweet 2 notes, and then cut off with a soft hiccup like tape stopped with a thumb. All 7 passengers heard it. None of them had brought a child. The window beside Tom showed nothing but black and the occasional fence post, counting to forever. But in the glass, the interior reflected a few inches to the left, and in that rippling mirror, a second bus rode with them. People stood in that echo bus, shoulder to shoulder, as if a rush-hour crowd had been trapped forever in the moment. Before a stop, before a bend, before air. And gravity decided something else would happen. Tom's breath fogged the window. He wrote the first letter of his son's name in it with a shaking finger. The letter smeared. He tried again. "Look at me," Linda said. "Don't look at the window. Look at me." Tom did. His eyes were wet. "Deep breath in," she said. "Hold. Out. In. Out." The engine scream cut off like a stretched tape snapped between 2 fingers. In the sudden quiet that the wheels whisper grew huge, a whisper magnified to a threat. Far ahead, someone's hazard lights winked a nervous blip, blip, blip. "Maybe," Henry said, "maybe it's letting us." The horn detonated, point blank, a blast so loud it punched the air out of their lungs. Wah! At the same instant, a hairline crack sounded in the glass by Tom's temple tick. Another tick. A spider web etched itself across the pane with a chorus of tiny starbursts. Tick, 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 tick. Tom Lisa cried. He didn't answer, because the shoulder strap gave one last merciless tug, and his head met the window a second time, not with gore, not with shatter, but with an awful finality, the kind of force the human skull was never meant to measure. His eyes rolled white for a second, and then found Linda again, as if they'd been trying to come back to something kind before the world changed. "Stay with me, Linda," whispered voice breaking. The crack in the glass let out a thin descending whine like a tea kettle realizing it was empty. From the driver's seat, the cap tilted. Leather creaked a small private sound, like a glove closing over a hand that wasn't there. "Everyone sit down," David shouted, because that was what training gave you, commands that sounded like ladders when the floor disappeared. They were sitting. They were all sitting, buckled, breath counting itself just to have something to do. The turn signal started its patient tick. Again, tick, tick, tick. Only now it was out of rhythm with the flaring hazards ahead. The PA breathed a single word, more exhale than voice home. Wind skittered along the roof, small feet running in circles, tip, 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 tip. Ava raised her camera hand steadier than she felt. The lens caught a reflection in the driver's mirror. Not the 7 of them. Not anymore. Behind them, stretching aisle to aisle, stood a congregation of vanished riders, with their mouths open to sing a hymn of brakes and gravity. Some faces were new. One was Tom's, and in that echo he was standing, his seatbelt hanging limp, one hand lifted the way a man lifts a hand to shield his eyes from something bright and fast and permanent. Eva lowered the camera. "Don't film this," Lisa said, not unkind, just broken. "I have to," Eva said. "Otherwise, we'll think we dreamed it." Somewhere beneath their feet, the undercarriage groaned, a ship's hull noise, timber deep and old. The heater coughed dust that smelled like rain that never came. The fluorescent tube buzzed louder, brighter, a wasp trapped in medicine cabinet light. The brake lights ahead resolved into shape a line of stopped vehicles at a construction zone. An arrow board blinked left, corralling all traffic into one lane. Cones funneled drivers toward patients. The late bus did not slow. David braced. Everybody heads low brace positions. The horn bellowed again, a wall of sound that shoved the night aside. Behind it, under it, threaded through it, came another sound, 40 voices, telling their last jokes, their last prayers, their last "I'll call you tomorrows" all at once in the same breath. It was not words. It was the shape words leave behind. And under even that, so deep, it felt like it moved the blood in your veins. A drum began, boom, boom, boom. A voice heartbeat pounding from the floor. The cones leapt away on their rubber feet. The arrow board spun. A foreman in a hard hat dove for the median, cursing his radio clattering into the dirt. The bus threaded the needle as if the highway had thrown a rope and the bus had decided to become a needle. Metal screamed somewhere along the side, keyed in, where a construction barrier kissed paint. The rear panel thumped thunk as a cone slapped it and rolled. Someone outside shouted, voice ragged with terror, "Hey, hey," they were through. Behind them, the construction crew stood in a silent V, all looking after the bus with the same expression relief that the story was not theirs tonight. Inside, the passengers breathed. They breathed. It sounded like life. Tom did not. Linda placed 2 fingers on his neck, then folded his seatbelt back over his chest with a tenderness that made Lisa cry into her sleeve. For a long moment, the only sound was the bass drum heartbeat from the floor boom. Boom. Boom, gradually slowing, as if satisfied. Then the PA sighed a dusty ribbon of air, good. The turn signal clicked off on its own, 3 polite ticks. Tick, 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 and done. "Whoever you are," Henry said toward the shadow under the driver's cap, "you don't have to do this." He believed it when he said it. That was the awful part. In answer, the wipers squealed across the dry glass once more. Ee, then rested. The engine settled back into its original hum, a lullaby for someone else's child. The horn stayed quiet, holding its breath like a predator that has learned patience. The Devil's Mile unspooled ahead. The bus slid toward it as if the road were oiled with memory. Behind Tom's seat, his phone buzzed. Its vibration was a frantic insect trapped in plastic. Bzz, bzz, bzz. On the cracked screen, a text from his wife flashed and faded with a faint ding of delivery ding, soft and hopeful and late. No one touched it. The bus continued on. Outside, the night pressed both hands to the windows and hissed along the edges of the glass. Inside, somewhere toward the front, very close to the driver's missing mouth, something that wasn't a voice, but had the weight of speaking, said a word without sound, and every ear still heard it again. Fade to black. The highway bent west, where the hills grew jagged like teeth gnawing at the moon. From a distance, the bus must have looked like a bullet of silver and shadow cutting through emptiness. Inside, the 7 had become 6. Tom's silence was not just the absence of sound. It was the presence of something colder, heavier, as if the air itself had turned into lead. Linda still had her fingers pressed over his chest, though she no longer searched for a pulse. Mark sat beside her knife, still half drawn, afraid to admit how useless it looked in his hand. The engine kept its low drone steady as a heartbeat. Overhead, the fluorescent bulb flickered, buzzing like a wasp in a glass jar. Psst, psst, psst. Somewhere beneath the floor, the suspension moaned with each bump, like an old man rolling in his sleep. Henry broke the silence. "I know that name," he said, voice hushed. "Earl Navarro. He was the one." "Don't," Linda said again, sharper this time. "Don't give him a story." But Ava had already pulled out her phone, flipping through an offline article she had saved months ago for a project on California ghost legends. "It's him," she whispered. "Navarro drove a bus off the Devil's Mile, 1968. 40 dead. They never recovered all the bodies." The PA system popped alive with static Zurich Kirsch before falling quiet again, as if it had been listening. Lisa shook her head. "This isn't real. It can't be. It's some malfunction, a hallucination." David pointed at Tom. "Hallucinations don't crush people with seatbelts." The horn blared one short honk, boo-wah, that rattled their teeth. Then silence, as if the bus itself had smirked. Lisa began crying into her hands. I can't stay here. We have to stop the bus." "Stopping means getting close to him," Mark muttered, eyes fixed on the driver's silhouette. Eva lowered her camera. "What if the bus doesn't stop until he finishes?" Henry's gaze moved from Tom's slumped form to the empty seats reflected in the glass. "Then it's a ritual," he said. "And rituals need an order." From the rear, a sudden metallic bang echoed, bang, like someone slamming the emergency door with both fists. It repeated, bang, bang, each strike slower, more deliberate. David spun. No one was there. The rear door was latched still, but the strikes left dents in the steel frame like fists from the other side. "Okay," David said, voice taut. "Everybody sit tight. I'll go up there, talk to him." "See if I can talk," Lisa hissed. "Talk to what?" The bus's brakes hissed suddenly, psst, though they didn't slow down. The sound lingered like a serpent uncoiling under their feet. David pressed on. If he was a driver once, maybe part of him still thinks he's doing a job. Maybe someone needs to play passenger until it's done. Or maybe Linda said, "You'll just give him another excuse." But David was already moving forward, hand brushing each seat back like it was a rosary. He reached the yellow line behind the driver's seat. "Sir," he said evenly, "this isn't safe. We've got people on board. You need to slow down." The steering wheel creaked as if something heavy leaned into it. Creak. The horn gave a mocking double tap. Boo-weep, boo-weep. Then from the ceiling speakers, a man's voice bled through, warped by static but undeniably human. "Passengers, remain calm." Eva froze. That's his recording. That's what he said before the crash. I read it. David swallowed. "Mr. Navarro, you don't have to finish this route." The windshield wipers shrieked across dry glass, ee, like nails on slate. The driver tilted his cap, leather squeaking crack, and then the bus swerved. It wasn't much, just a jag to the left, then back, but it was enough to throw Lisa against the window and make Eva drop her camera. The tires screeched in protest. Skirt! And the luggage rack above them rattled like bones in a tin can. Linda grabbed Lisa's arm. "Are you hurt?" Lisa shook her head, tears streaking her face. "It's playing with us." At that moment, A low rumble rose from under the seats. Room! Like a dozen cell phones vibrating at once. The sound deepened into a growl, and then into something like a chant, voices overlapping in a language none of them knew. Henry's lips moved without sound, as if answering prayers with prayers. Eva bent to pick up her camera, but when she lifted it to her eye, the viewfinder showed more passengers than there were. Dozens of pale figures sat quietly in the rows, staring forward, hands folded in their laps. Their lips moved in sync with the chant. She lowered the camera. Empty seats again. The PA clicked and whispered almost kindly, "Next stop," then cut out with a sharp tick. Mark shivered. "Next stop, we're Graveyard," Henry muttered. Lisa sobbed harder. "Please don't say that." David kept standing behind the driver. "You want to finish the route, Navarro? You want to deliver your passengers? Then let the living off. Take me instead." "David, no," Linda cried. The bus's horn roared, boo-oo-ah, long, triumphant, like applause from the dead. The floor beneath them shook with a booming rhythm, boom, 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 like iron wheels on old train tracks. The driver did not turn, but his shadow lengthened, spilling down the aisle like ink in water. David's boots stood inside it now. Eva whispered, "Don't move. If you step fully in..." A piercing screech erupted from the brakes, scree like knives dragged across metal. Yet the bus still didn't slow. The chanting grew louder. Louder. Hush, 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 whisper, whisper, voices filling every corner. And then Lisa screamed. Her seatbelt had locked. The strap coiled tighter around her chest, squeezing the breath out. Not her. Linda shouted, clawing at the buckle. The buckle clicked stubbornly, click, click, click. The reel whispered, swallowing more slack, zip, zip. Lisa's face turned red. Her nails scraped at the strap. David lunged backward, knife from Mark's bag in hand. With one swift slash, he cut the fabric. The cut snapped with a sharp right, loud as a gunshot in the cabin. Lisa gasped air, sobbing, clutching her chest. The PA answered with a distorted laugh, before dying into static. "Now it's angry," Henry said. As if on cue, the rear door banged again, bang, bang, followed by the screech of nails dragging down the metal. Scree. Eva lifted her camera, but this time when she peered through the lens, the figure in the driver's seat had no face at all. Only a cavern where a face should be filled with smoke and firelight. The chanting stopped. In its place came a new sound, a single voice amplified, echoing through the speakers, like a conductor calling station's next passenger. And the bus surged forward, faster than before. The bus thundered west, its speed bleeding into recklessness. Outside, the guardrails glimmered in the red taillights of distant traffic, like the veins of a wounded highway. Inside, 6 passengers had become a trembling handful of survivors. Lisa, gasping, Eva, clutching her camera. Linda trying to hold the group together, Henry whispering fragments of prayers, David still planted at the driver's shadow, and Mark staring at Tom's body with eyes that refused to blink. The tires howled against the asphalt, whoosh, like wolves chasing prey. The engine roared louder, a hollow metallic growl that drowned even the wind. Somewhere beneath the floor, loose bolts rattled with a sharp metallic chatter, clack, 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 clack. Henry licked dry lips. It's not random. It's going down the line. Tom first. Now Lisa. Next, shut it. Mark snapped. His voice cracked, desperate. Don't tell it who's next. The PA crackled alive, a static hiss. Shh. Then a whisper that mocked them. Next, next, next. Linda leaned across the aisle. Mark, look at me. We have to stay calm." Mark's hands shook as he dug through his tool bag. "Calm, you saw what it did. If this thing wants a fight, it picked the wrong bus." He pulled out a heavy wrench. The wrench clanged against the seat frame as he stood, clanged. "Mark, no," Lisa shouted. But Mark was already charging toward the front, weapon raised. David reached out, but too late. Mark swung the wrench down hard on the steering wheel. The wheel shrieked with a metallic scream, like tortured steel. The horn erupted in fury, blasting one endless wail, "Bee," that shook the cabin walls. The bus swerved violently, nearly clipping the guardrail. The tires screeched against the pavement. "Skrr, furtur." Tet sparks sprang outside the windows like fireworks from hell. "Sit down," David yelled. Mark slammed the wrench again. "Let us out." The PA roared with static. Then a deep voice boomed, distorted and furious. "Sit!" The sound pounded through the bus like a drum beat. Boom, 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 shaking every rib cage. Mark staggered but swung again. The wrench slipped from his hands, clattering across the floor. The clatter rang out sharp and endless. Clink, clank, clink, until it rolled beneath the seats. Mark fell back into the aisle, panting, eyes wild. "Did you hurt it?" Lisa whispered. David shook his head grimly. "You can't hurt what's not here." From the overhead vents, a cold wind hissed through. Yeah, like snakes pouring into the cabin. With it came a faint chorus of children laughing, high, eerie giggles, he, that turned into shrieks. Lisa covered her ears. "Make it stop, please." Eva raised her camera. Through the viewfinder, she saw Mark, except he wasn't seated anymore. He was standing in the aisle of the ghost bus reflection, surrounded by pale passengers pressing close, their hollow eyes fixed on him. One of them reached out and placed a hand on his chest. Ava lowered the camera. Mark was still there, still breathing, but his seatbelt clicked shut on its own. Click. What Mark tugged at it, but the buckle refused. The reel snapped tight, zip locking him in place. Linda grabbed his arm. "Don't fight it. Stay still." Like hell, Mark shouted. He pulled, kicked, struggled. The belt whined as it tightened further, like leather screaming. The seat springs groaned beneath his feet. Then the floor beneath Mark's seat began to bulge as though something underneath was pushing upward. Henry's face went pale. "No. It's the wheels. It's giving him to the wheels." The floor cracked with a loud snap. Snap, Mark's seat jolted, bolts popping loose. Clank, clank. Before anyone could grab him, and the entire seat dropped through the floor. A roar of rushing wind filled the cabin. Whoosh! The grinding crunch of rubber and bone screamed beneath them. Skirsh! Crunch! Mark's scream cut off mid-breath. The floor sealed itself smooth as before. Only a black grease stain remained. Lisa vomited into her sleeve. Linda sobbed openly. Ava whispered, "It fed him to the wheels." The bus growled in satisfaction. Like a beast licking blood from its teeth. David slammed a fist against the pole. "You son of a bitch," the horn answered with 3 mocking honks. Beep, beep, beep. Henry's voice cracked. "It's a ritual. Each of us one by one." Linda glared at him. "Not if I end it first." She unbuckled her belt and stood. "Linda, don't," David warned. But she moved toward the front, calm, steady, like she was walking back into an ER ward. "You want me?" she said toward the driver's shadow. "Take me. Leave the rest." The PA hummed with a low vibration, like approval. The speakers whispered her name layered with dozens of voices. Linda. Her seatbelt whipped free from its reel, coiling like a snake. It lashed around her throat with a sharp snap. Lisa screamed. No, Linda clawed at it, eyes bulging, feet kicking against the aisle floor. The strap tightened, zippy, each tug cutting deeper. Her choking gasps rattled in her throat. Cake wet, broken sounds. The overhead lights flickered violently. David rushed forward with a knife, but the strap yanked Linda backward into her seat, pinning her. The seatbelt ratcheted one final pull, rick, like bone snapping. Her body went still. The strap relaxed, slowly retracting back into its reel with a soft hiss. Shh. Linda's head lolled to one side. Her eyes stared blankly at the floor. Silence fell. Then the horn bellowed once, boom, long and triumphant, echoing into the night. 4 passengers left. The bus kept racing. The bus had become a coffin on wheels. Only 4 souls remained. Ava clutching her camera like a talisman, Lisa trembling and whispering prayers through sobs, Henry muttering fragments of history as if naming facts might shield him and David, standing tall, a firefighter facing the fire that no water could quench. Tom was gone. Mark had been swallowed by the wheels. Linda lay slumped, strangled by the belt, meant to save lives. The bus pressed on, guided by a driver who hadn't been alive for decades. The engine thundered with a deeper growl that shook the seats. The horn let out 2 sharp blasts, beep beep, that stabbed the air like knives. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed, bizit before sputtering into dim, sickly yellow. Eva wiped tears from her eyes, camera still rolling. "It's documenting us," she whispered. "That's why I have to film, so someone will know." Lisa shook her head violently. "Put it away. You're making it worse. It sees you." The PA system hissed, then whispered in a chorus of voices, "Eva. Record. Eva froze. It knows my name. David stepped between her and the driver. "Ignore it. Don't listen. Look at me, Eva. You're safe as long as you stay calm." From the floor vents, hot air blasted out, whoosh, like a furnace opening. The heat carried a faint crackle, kirsch, like burning wood. Then faintly came screams, layered voices shrieking, I, as if dozens of people were burning alive beneath them. Henry covered his ears. It's replaying their deaths. Ava clutched the camera tighter. "If I stop filming, it'll take me." "No," David said firmly. "You're stronger than that." But the bus had other plans. The PA clicked sharply, "Teak." Then a deep voice thundered, "Next. Camera." Eva's seatbelt slithered loose like a snake and wrapped around her waist. She screamed. "No, not me." The belt ratcheted tight, zip, pinning her to the seat. The air vents roared hotter. Whoosh, like dragon breath. The crackle of flames rose, kirsch, growing louder. Her camera screen lit up with static. Faces appeared in the snow of pixels, burned twisted faces of the 40 dead. Their mouths opened and closed, whispering soundless words. Then fire burst from the vents. It roared out, whoosh, flames licking along the floor. The heat shrieked, searing the air. Ava screamed, thrashing against the belt. "Help me!" David ripped off his jacket, beating at the flames, but every swing only spread them. The fire crackled, crack, like bones snapping. The PA laughed a distorted howl. Lisa sobbed hysterically. "She's burning. Oh God, she's burning alive." David grabbed the knife, slashing at the seatbelt. The strap snapped. Rip. But it was too late. Ava's clothes ignited fire, crawling up her arms, consuming her hair. Her screams ripped through the bus. Shrieks so sharp they seemed to tear the metal walls. David tried to smother her with his jacket, but the fire spread to him. His sleeve caught. The flames whooshed up his arm. Foosh, hungry wild. "Get it off!" Lisa screamed. David tore the jacket free, slamming it to the floor. But Ava's body was already engulfed. Her camera melted into the seat. Plastic popped and hissed plop. Psh. Glass cracked tick, tick, tick as the lens shattered. Ava's last scream dissolved into a choking gasp. She collapsed sideways, the fire burning down to embers. The air vents hissed one final time, esh, then went cold. The bus smelled of charred skin and melted plastic. Lisa covered her face. Henry whispered, 4. There are 4 in the grave now. David dropped to his knees, clutching the knife. His eyes burned with fury. "You bastard! You want me, take me!" The horn bellowed, "Boom!" as if accepting his challenge. The engine revved higher, re-azure like a beast preparing to strike. The driver tilted his head shadow, stretching across the aisle until it touched David's boots. David didn't move. He stood his ground. "Come on, then," he growled. The PA whispered, "Fire, fighter," followed by cruel laughter. The aisle lights flickered red. The smell of gasoline filled the cabin. A low drip, drip, drip echoed beneath the seats. Drip, 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 like liquid spilling. Then the strike of a match, TS-eshed. The floor ignited. Flames roared up in a circle, whoosh, trapping David. The bus groaned with heat. Creak, its metal bones bending. David turned eyes locking with Lisa's. "Get out if you can." Lisa sobbed, shaking her head. Don't, but David didn't back down. He stepped forward straight into the fire. The flames roared louder, whoosh, consuming his body. His screams were short, strangled, "Ah!" before they cut off in a choking silence. The fire died instantly, as if swallowed by invisible lungs. David's charred body dropped to the floor. The horn blasted once, "Bew away," like a victory note. The bus settled into its steady growl, calm, almost satisfied. Only 2 remained, Henry and Lisa. The road stretched ahead endless. The ritual was not yet done. The bus raced deeper into the night, swallowed by a silence that wasn't silence at all. Tom was gone. Linda strangled. Mark crushed. Ava burned. David consumed. Only 2 remained, Henry the history teacher, who had spent his life memorizing dates and deaths, and Lisa, the young mother who clutched her phone like it was her son's hand. The engine hummed now, steady and low, as if satisfied with its harvest. The horn gave a lazy moan, boo, that drifted over the highway like a morning call. The tires whispered, shh, like a lullaby for the damned. Henry placed his hand gently on Lisa's shoulder. "Listen to me. Whatever happens next, you hold on. You survive." Lisa shook her head, eyes wet. "I don't want to be the last one left." Henry's face was pale but calm. "Better one than none." From the PA static rose, "Shish," and a voice echoed, "Next." "Teacher." Henry's lips trembled. "It knows me." Lisa grabbed his arm. "Don't let it. Fight back." But Henry only sighed. "I've lived my life. You still have your son." The brakes hissed suddenly. Though the bus didn't slow. The overhead light flickered, casting shadows that crawled like spiders along the ceiling. The floor beneath Henry's feet began to rumble. Boom, boom, boom. Like heavy footsteps under the bus. Lisa screamed. The seatbelt across Henry's lap clicked shut. Click. His eyes widened. "It's choosing me." The reel zipped tight, zip, pulling him down into the seat. Lisa clawed at the buckle. No, but the floor beneath Henry's seat split open. The tearing sound was deafening, like the earth opening. Wind roared upward, whoosh, sucking the air from the cabin. Henry's body jerked downward, half pulled through the opening. His hands flailed, fingers clawing at the air. "Lisa," he shouted. "Tell my story. Don't let me vanish." Lisa grabbed his wrist with both hands. "I won't let you go." For a moment, she held him. Then the shadow of the driver stretched long, wrapping around Henry's legs. The sound of dragging chains filled the bus, clang, clang, iron scraping steel. Henry's eyes filled with horror. The chains of the 40. With a violent snap, creang, the chains yanked him down. Lisa screamed as Henry was torn from her grip. He vanished into the darkness beneath the bus. The hole slammed shut with a metallic thud. The echo of Henry's scream lingered, fading into a hollow wheesp. Lisa collapsed into her seat, sobbing uncontrollably. She was the last. The PA clicked tick, then whispered, "Final. Passenger." Lisa's phone buzzed in her pocket. Bzzz, like a trapped insect. She pulled it out. A message from her son lit the cracked screen. "Good night, Mom. I love you." Tears blurred her vision. "Please," she whispered, "let me live. For him." But the seatbelt had other plans. The buckle clicked shut, click. The reel pulled slowly, zip, zip, tightening across her chest. Lisa screamed, kicking at the floor, thrashing like a wild animal. The horn blasted, boo, ah, ah, long and merciless. The wipers screeched across dry glass, ee, like a cry of triumph. Lisa's scream filled the bus, shrill and piercing. Her voice cracked, ah, echoing against the windows. The glass trembled, tick, 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 as fractures spread. And then silence. Her body slumped forward, head against the window. Her scream cut off mid-breath. Only the driver remained, or rather, the shape of the driver. The engine purred, smooth and endless. The horn gave one last blast, boom, 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 that rolled across the desert. Outside, the highway stretched empty. The bus sped past exit signs, past gas stations long closed, past crosses on the roadside. No passengers, no driver. Only the bus still moving. Its tires whispered, like the voices of 40 lost souls. The red tail lights burned in the dark, glowing like the eyes of a beast. And far away, faint but certain, came the sound of chains dragging, clang, clang, promising the bus would never stop. Fade to black.